All right, on this episode of Bare Knuckle Bowker, very excited to be talking to an individual who is set to compete at BKFC's KnuckleMania 5, and that goes down on January the 25th. Quite the intriguing bout set for that card as JD Burns is going to knuckle up and toe the line against Dustin Pague, and great having Dustin on Bare Knuckle Bowker to talk a bit about that fight. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Yeah, no, doing great, man. Definitely can't complain. I guess I'm wondering what your initial thoughts were when you got this bout offer to be on this card. Like, obviously, Knuckle Mania is such a big tentpole event for the company historically, but this just seems like it's that next level. Like the BKFC DAZN deal has been going on for a few
Yeah,
months now. It's the first card in Philly. Like, what was the initial reaction when you got the bout offer for this specific event?
I was very excited. I'm a Pennsylvania boy, so first card in PA, I had to be on it. So I was praying that I would get the call. And then for it to be a Knucklemania is just it's an honor. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I didn't care what opponent they threw at me. I was going to say yes to anybody. I was just ready to be on the card. Yeah, and represent PA.
Yeah, I love hearing that because I did notice that just your connectivity to the area, that seems like such a thing for it seems like multiple fighters on the card. Like obviously Eddie Alvarez has really echoed that sentiment, just how important this moment is for him as well, because he's like more of like a local kind of guy as well. So yeah, I just love that all of you are getting that kind of look, and Philadelphia seems like such a perfect market for bare knuckle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Philly's a big a fight city, so that's the perfect place. And Wells Fargo Center, like, what could be better than that? It's going to be an awesome venue. Philly fans are crazy. I'm excited to hear them go nuts. And yeah, it's just an honor to be able to represent your home state because obviously I'm going to have a ton of fans there, ton of friends and family coming out to support me because it's finally something reasonable to make as far as distance. So yeah, I'm really excited, honored to be on the show.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Such a massive event, and I mean, definitely a lot to talk about with that. But I feel like I should at least, in a cursory way, touch on the last fight there and everything like that. Just what were your thoughts on, I guess, just that performance? Like, what were the main takeaways from that outing? Obviously, Carlos Trinidad Snake, poised for that next title shot and everything. It would seem from reading the tea leaves and all. I guess what were the main takeaways overall from that fight in May of last year?
Yeah, the biggest takeaway is it sucked. I broke my jaw, so 13 seconds into the first round is not how I saw it going. But I was super pumped for that fight. I was ranked four at the time. Trinidad was number one, and they were telling us, the winner of that fight gets the title shot. So that's where my mind, my heart has been to win the title. It still is. It's still my goal, and it's definitely something I'm going to achieve one day. This was just a little setback. So yeah, bell rings. We come out. He catches me with what I expected the entire train up is that rear uppercut that he throws pretty frequently. Even with slipping my head out on the jab, he connected excellent. I mean, it hit in the perfect spot to snap my mandible on both sides. I knew right away my jaw was broke. It was the weirdest feeling. I had a bone coming up underneath my tongue. My mouth was filling with blood, almost as if somebody was pouring a bottle of water in my mouth. That's how fast it was filling up. If you saw the fight, you could see how many times I kept spitting out pools of blood. So it sucked. I knew it was broke right away. I tried doing my best on finishing him in the first round. He did a good job of just avoiding me and running a little bit. So it sucked because I knew once I went back to the corner, I knew the doctor was going to stop it. I know everyone was kind of curious, like, what's going on? They thought maybe I lost a tooth or something. But yeah, it was a lot more serious than everyone could tell. Had to get major surgery the following morning. They put I don't know if you can see the scars here. I got a scar here and on the other side. They put
Okay, yeah, yeah.
two titanium plates on each side to get my jaw back and ready to rock. But I'm cleared. I'm healthy. Uh, and it doesn't affect me now. So now I got an iron jaw going into this thing.
Was gonna say, was it a difficult recovery timeline in some regards? Because it seems like rehab can sometimes, have that, physical toll component, but then also sometimes it's mentally trying in some regards. Like, what was your recovery timeline like in that regard?
You know what? I'm very blessed. I think God favors his people. I think he favored me. All my surgeries have been pretty simple. I think I have a high pain tolerance, obviously. So it wasn't very painful post surgery. Um, Obviously, I was on some annoying restrictions like having, liquids and soft food for the first, what was it, babe, 6 weeks? Yeah, I didn't listen very well, but I did my best. But yeah, it was more of a annoyance. But as far as pain and recovery time, heck, I was back sparring 3 months after. So my doctor did a phenomenal job. Um, the swelling went down fairly quickly. I don't really have any residual um, side effects. I do have numbness uh, where the punch hit. He said there's a lot of nerve damage, so I do have this side of my chin and lip is numb, which will probably never come back, but I'm already used to it. So yeah, things went perfectly as perfect as they could go for breaking your jaw and getting surgery. Yeah, recovery went well, and I feel great. So on to the next.
Yeah, and to that point of on to the next, I'd be curious to just get your thoughts on JD Burns because definitely a guy who is fairly well traveled on the bare knuckle boxing circuit, having fought for, BYB primarily from what I'm seeing, but looking ready to step into the BKFC ring here. Like, what are your, I guess, thoughts on what you've seen from him stylistically in a bare knuckle sense? Like, he does have some MMA experience, but seems like the bulk of his combat sports experience professionally is kind of in that bare knuckle realm. So, like what have you, I guess, seen from him in terms of skill set and I guess just thoughts on Burns's resume in the sport of bare knuckle in general?
Yeah, I treat all my opponents as if they're world champions. I never underestimate anybody based on the footage I see. If I had to, critique him a little bit, I think he's a bit wild. He swings for the fences, head down. He's very linear fighter. He's very forward or back, not much angles to his game. So I think experience wise and talent wise, I think I'm a few levels above him. But like I said, I never underestimate an opponent. Every man has a chin, and it's always a puncher's chance. So I just got to stay sharp. I got to stick to my game plan. Avoid his tough throws. He throws a lot of haymakers that if they connect on anybody, they can do some damage. So I just got to stay sharp. A lot of movement in and out, and he's a tall, tough guy. So I'm prepared for a war, but I feel very confident with a victory.
Yeah, just like stay composed and kind of weather that storm in a certain regard.
Yeah,
Like that's kind of the, yeah.
yep, absolutely. He likes to just put his head down and throw bombs, stand and bang there with people. But I enjoy a good throw down as well. So it's going to be a good fight. I guarantee it. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, your track record certainly speaks to that, man. And I'd be curious to just get your thoughts on everything, just with not even just the sport, but I guess even specifically the company's growth. Because I remember one of the initial times we spoke, you had kind of mentioned seeing that first BKFC show in 2018, and Johnny Bedford, one of your buddies from the Tough House, was a very prominent figure, multiple, title accolades at bantamweight and everything like that. So I guess just like relative to that versus like where BKFC is at now and where you're at in your journey now, can you kind of, I guess, talk about that timeline? Because it seems pretty incredible. It seems like you had a connectivity to it early on when you saw it, and just I guess the level that it's at now and the spotlight that's on it now. Just curious to get your thoughts on all that.
Yeah, it blows my mind to think about how fast this sport grew. I mean, the moment I saw it back in 2018, I knew it was going to be a hit. I mean, who doesn't love watching two humans just throw bare knuckles at each other? It's super entertaining. Um, it's just the most badass sport you can think of. And I knew it was going to explode, but I just didn't know it would happen that fast. I mean, watching Johnny Bedford's first fight, the first event they put on, to now being, in all over the U.S., all over the world, and these massive venues and crowds that they're pulling in, and all these other companies that want in the mix, and guys like Conor McGregor that want a piece of this is just incredible. How many people are reaching out and want to be involved with this sport. And I mean, I'm still a huge MMA fan. We watched the UFC fights the other night. It doesn't grab you like a bare knuckle fight. Even, big names like we're on UFC 311. I'd much rather watch some no names on BKFC throw some bare knuckles at each other. So, yeah, it grew tremendously fast, but I am surprised at how fast it grew. But then again, I'm not surprised because, I mean, you've seen the sport. It's super entertaining and it's going to continue to grow. So I'm just thankful that I'm a part of it.
Yeah, and I was actually going to ask you about that. So I think we're kind of on the same wavelength. Just I was going to get your sense of how much you're still keeping up with a lot of like mixed martial arts action. It seemed like there was some fallout discourse from that event centric to Marab Dvalishvili. And I figure you'd be a great guy to ask just because you did such great things at bantamweight and MMA and fought a lot of big names. Like it seems like there's certain sentiments around him now at this juncture. But I guess just even before I get into that, like what were your thoughts on what Marab Dvalishvili was able to do in handing Umar Nurmagomedov his first loss in MMA?
He's a different level of fighter, man. I look back to my run in the UFC at 35. One, that was a bad weight for me. Cutting to 35 was absolutely miserable. I mean, I could have died the amount of weight I cut. I mean, I walked around at one high 160s lean, not much body fat on me at all. So to lose 30 pounds when you're single digit body fat is very risky. So I never felt excellent at 135, which probably ended my career quickly. But I mean, even in my prime weight and prime skill, like that dude's just another level, man. He's so quick and just dangerous on the ground, wrestling on his feet. Uh, I think it's going to be hard for people to beat him at his best.
And I'd be curious to get your insights on this because you had a strong run in the Tough House during that Ultimate Fighter season 14 run, and within there you fought TJ Dillashaw. And the reason I bring that up is because some people refer to him as the greatest bantamweight of all time, but that sentiment that seemed to be emerging from last weekend that I was kind of touching on there with Marab is I've heard some people kind of mentioning him as potentially the all-time great bantamweight. Like who would you,
Yeah.
I guess, in your estimation, say is the greatest bantamweight of all time in MMA history?
I mean, since I fought TJ, I'm going to have to go with him. Makes me look cool. But yeah, it's funny fighting TJ when I was that young and our semifinal fight. One, I was happy he wasn't able to finish me, but I could just tell fighting him that he was going to be something special. Like he was, um, just every area of his game was just so quickly evolving. Because when I fought him, he wasn't even that. I don't think he was that much into MMA. I think he had like a 4-0 or 5-0 record coming into the house, but you could just tell fighting that dude that he had what it took. He definitely is one of the best of all times at 135. Um, and he did well for himself. I mean, I'm proud of him. I'm honored that I got a piece of TJ Dillashaw at one point in my life. That's always a Losses are never fun, but it's always good to have a loss like that to somebody that became so successful in the sport.
And it's just interesting just where you're at now, just a couple of the things you mentioned there, because I was seeing in one of the earlier BKFC articles that they did on you, it was kind of centric on you talking about how you would have gotten right into bare knuckle if it was as prevalent as like when you had initially started in MMA, and just where you're at now with like the weight division that you're in. I imagine it's like a night and day difference how you feel just heading into the fight and probably your performances even in the body of the fight. So in a couple of different regards, it seems like you're in like the most key spot you could be in right now.
Yeah, even in MMA fights, if I wasn't taken down or somebody attempted to take me down, I would have kept the fight standing. That's my favorite thing to do. I love standing and banging with somebody. And even the fights I won by submission, it was typically because I knocked them down, and then jumped on. I was never really looking too much for a takedown. Um, and yeah, once I saw bare knuckle and I experienced it, um, there's nothing more badass than just standing and exchanging blows with somebody with no gloves on. So I'm hooked. And yeah, if that was around back in the day when I started back in, I don't know, 2005, I think I would have jumped on that train and rode it my whole career.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, great performances. Your Joe Elmore fight was incredible. I mean, just a great body of work so far in general. And kind of earlier on, we were talking about how your goal is very much still centric on that welterweight title. I guess to that point, like, what are your thoughts on what Austin Trout has been able to do? Because in like a pretty short period of time, he's really shown a very high pedigree, just being the reigning and defending champion after that Rico Franco fight at BKFC Spain. So, what are your thoughts on just Trout and what he's been able to do as the champion so far?
I think Trout is a stud. I mean, I think it's going to be a difficult opponent for the top five guys to compete with. Just, I mean, his movement, his speed. He's a tough dude, and he's a great fighter. His prior boxing career definitely shows in bare knuckle. Um, yeah, I mean, there's not much you can take away from that guy. He definitely earned his spot to be there. I mean, Rico Franco's a great fighter, and I mean, he made him look like a B class fighter. I thought Franco had nothing for him, which says a lot because I think Franco's a tough, well rounded bare knuckle fighter. So we'll see, man. I got to be to compete with Trout. I got to be on my A game. Um, but hey, everybody's got a chin, and I believe in myself, and I think that's key to have faith in yourself and confidence in what you can do. So maybe I'll get the chance one day. That's what I'm praying for. That's what I'm training for.
Yeah, and it could be derivative of that TJ Dillashaw sentiment in a certain regard, in as far as like it's great to, have gotten the opportunity to test skills against someone of that persuasion. So, yeah, I mean, definitely a great goal to work towards for sure. I mean, a guy that's fought in glove boxing against guys like Canelo Alvarez and people like that, and just what he's been able to do so far in BKFC. So yeah, it seems like there's some great potential opportunities. And I obviously say that not overlooking this fight and the magnitude of the event, but yeah, still seems like a great time for Dustin Pague. And I would think that there's a lot you can potentially get up to this calendar year. But I guess presuming you would want to stay fairly busy after the hiatus from the jaw and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. That's the goal. I want to stay healthy and fight as often as I can this year. That's I'm hoping I walk through. I won't say walk through. I put an impressive win against Burns. Look to get another fight shortly after if I'm injury free, and then we'll see what comes after two straight back-to-back wins. I think I'll get back into the title contention area.
Yeah, it just seems like a great time in general for you. Like, I also love seeing how supportive you are of your daughter's wrestling endeavors and stuff like that. So, just, yeah, a great time for you in a lot of regards, it would seem like.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, my number one goal is my family, my wife and my three beautiful kids. They're always going to be number one on my book. So if at any point that the love that I have for the sports gets in the way of them, then it's nothing to me. But so I'm always going to be with my kiddos and support their dreams as well. And if I could fit in mine along the way, then great. They're my number one. So.
No, I love that, man. That definitely comes across in a big way. And I think that's so important. I think your family and your friends or whatever's representative of your loved ones, I think that's the most important thing at the end of the day. So, yeah, I love to hear that, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Just a great time. And just, yeah, it seems like there's going to be a, bit of a star-studded kind of event here. Like you were talking about how it's in pretty, close proximity to like a lot of your family to be able to come out and stuff like that. But I was seeing from David Feldman and some other individuals. Like it seems like there's a certain level of expectation as far as like potential big names to come out to the event and stuff like that. Like I believe I was reading an article where like potentially Sylvester Stallone is entertaining coming to the event. Like there's some talk about, Conor McGregor obviously being that his, partial ownership stake is such a big thing. So it seems like it's the event for people to check out for sure. It seems like the hot ticket in town, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of celebrities, definitely Stallone would that would be awesome to have him there. But Philly's a big city for celebrities, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see some big new movie stars and famous people showing up to watch this event.
I mean, I'm sure you won't be necessarily focused on that even in a peripheral
Right.
way. It's probably blinders on for the event, but still kind of a fun sort of thing in a certain regard, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure, man. And just, yeah, I appreciate you making the time to talk, Dustin. It's great to, get to see you back in the BKFC space and everything like that. And just such a big card overall, just, makes a lot of sense that you would be on the event. And I imagine there's a lot of people going to be, coming out to support you and everything. But just figured I'd give you the floor in case you had like a final parting thought that you wanted to add as we're kind of wrapping things up here, man. I appreciate you coming on Bare Knuckle Bowker tonight.
No, man, I appreciate you reaching out and having me on. It's my pleasure. If you ever want to do a post-fight thing, hit me up. We'll talk about my impressive knockout against Burns. But no, I want to thank my wife for her support. And I'm not putting you first, babe, because you're sitting right over there. I always thank my wife. We've been together for, babe, a long time. Yeah. We started dating my second amateur fight. So she has been with me, amateur, pros, Ultimate Fighter, UFC, and now into this bare knuckle new love that I have. So she's been along for the whole ride and has always been incredibly supportive of me. Even canceling our honeymoon because I left 6 days after our wedding to go to the Ultimate Fighter. So she's a trooper, and I'm very grateful for her and her support. Just and God blessing me with such great people in my life. I'm very grateful. So thank you to my friends and family that support me, all my training partners, the Bang Barn Boys. Thank you guys, and yeah, I'm just ready to put on a show for the people on the 25th.
Yeah, really excited to check out this fight, man. And just like I said, KnuckleMania 5, a massive card. I feel like KnuckleMania is always a huge event, and I feel like they always do a great job of one-upping it each subsequent year. And great that you get the fight that's kind of in your neck of the woods on January 25th. And to reiterate, thanks for coming on Bare Knuckle Bowker tonight. Looking forward to peeping the fight when it goes down, but you have a good rest of your night until then, Dustin. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. We'll talk soon.